welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 132. And the title of this episode is High Alert as the Terrorist Threats Continue. And as we see over in the Middle East, another embassy is being closed, U.S. citizens are being evacuated, and the threat is still there. Things are getting out of control in the Mideast, and this is why this warning evolved into this terrorist threat. And the U.S. central bankers are worried that they're going to lose control over all of these countries that they have put their puppet government into, and they need to protect the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. And we're seeing many, many different protests in Egypt, Tunisia, Yemen, Bahrain, and Libya, Lebanon. I mean, we're seeing an uprising going on because they really do not want the central bankers / U.S. government involved in their countries. And this started, months ago, years ago actually, and it's grown out of control. And this is the only way the U.S. government and the central bankers know how to control this is by force. And it would be very difficult for the U.S. government to convince Congress that they'd have to go in with troops. So their alternative is create a terrorist threat, and under the terrorist threat guideline, they can go into all these countries, use drones, do strikes to get the terrorists like they've been doing, and it makes it much, much easier. Okay, we'll talk about more of that later on, but let's get into the economic collapse news. We're going to go out to Greece and what's happening out there. As reported yesterday, that they're so far into debt right now. The Greek people are unemployed. The unemployment rate is getting higher and higher each time, and the youth unemployment is very high, and pretty soon we're going to have more people unemployed than are actually working. But what's happening now, since business is going down, and because if people aren't working, they're not spending, and since people aren't spending, a lot of the Greek businesses are dodging the tax collectors. And what this goes on to say is a nationwide spot check by Greek tax inspectors have found that almost every other business is cheating the tax man in some way. Well, again, it goes and it makes sense. If you're not bringing enough money in, if your business is not doing that well, or if you don't have enough money to support yourself because you can't get work, you're going to hoard the money to use it for your family. You're going to use it for food. You're going to use it for rent. You're going to use it for everything else but to give it to the government so they can go into further debt with your money. So, I mean, what's the point at this time? And this goes on to say, despite repeated campaigns by successive governments to clamp down on tax fraud, it remains a major problem in Greece, and it will continue to be this problem until people get back to work. They are able to contribute, because you have to remember, when people are working and they're making a living and they have a check coming in, whatever they get paid, once a week, twice a week, once a month, whatever it is, you always have that constant income coming in. Depending on the amount of money that you're bringing in with your check, you have a certain amount of security. And, those people who have money coming in can provide for their family, purchase food, pay for their rent or mortgage, and they always know another check is coming, so they go ahead and they have no problem paying their taxes. But on the other side, if you're unemployed, you don't see a future. You don't see that check coming in every day. So what you do, you turn into what's called a hoarder, and you start consolidating and keeping your money and not just giving it to a government that is going to collapse. Because where would that money be better off? In your hands, providing for your family and buying food, or the government, who has to continually borrow and is continually getting into more debt, why would anyone want to give their money to that government? Because if you give it over, you have no money to feed your family. So this is what's happening in Egypt at this point, and you can see why people, are reluctant to pay their taxes. Now, talking about governments with a huge amount of debt, we have to look at Japan here. They just topped the 1 quadrillion yen debt. It had exceeded 1 quadrillion, and what that means is it's 1,000 trillion yen. That's what that is. And if we convert it into dollars, it is 10.46 trillion dollars. And what this means, it's now well above 200% of the country's GDP and is larger than that of Germany, France, and the UK combined. So they are printing like mad, and their debt is growing, 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 just like the U.S. Okay, now here in the U.S., looks like J.C. Penney's is having some problems here, and their stock has been falling, and it looks like Ackman and the J.C. Penney board has ceased to function effectively in the recent weeks, and we might see J.C. Penney going bye-bye. Sorry for all those people that like to shop there, but we might see another retail chain completely closed down, and it's starting to look like this. Now, if we look at the post office, they have a loss of $740 million over the last 3 months, and without any help from Congress, its financial woes will be worsen. And they're looking to stop Saturday delivery. They're trying to figure out what to do. They do not get any tax dollars from the government, and the post office is really hurting at this point. And it also says it's also seeking to reduce its congressionally mandated $5.6 billion annual payment for future retiree health benefits. And we might see I know Congress is trying to stop the post office from not, delivering mail on Saturday, but, there might be a time where there's no mail on Saturday. Maybe we're going to skip another day during the week. We don't know. And this is just another indication that the economy is not doing well. People are not using the post office to ship. People are not using, they're not sending packages like they used to. And a couple episodes back, there was a report on UPS also showing a decline in package delivery. Now, economist Galbraith, this is from MarketWatch, says the Fed is in the corner. And he goes on to say that, he's been saying for a long time that the Fed is stuck, that it has backed itself into the zero interest rate posture, and the Federal Reserve, finds itself kind of screwed, because if they start to taper in the fall like everyone is predicting, the economy is going to pretty much do a type of crash, collapse type of incident, because we saw it appear when the Fed mentioned the word taper, and we saw the markets go down. So if they actually go ahead and they start to taper, we will see things completely fall apart, because we have to remember the market is the Fed. The Fed is the stock market, the Treasury bond market, the housing market, and the student loan market. It is everything. There is no free market at this time. And it was proven when the Fed mentioned the word taper, because everyone thought, well, there goes all that printed money, we better start getting out now, and people started to sell. And they're showing us with the propaganda that the economy is doing better, unemployment is much lower, but we have to remember that the unemployment calculation, the GDP calculation, the inflation calculation, all have been manipulated and changed to reflect everything as a positive outlook. And this is what they have done, and they have done it on purpose because they can't show Americans that we have 23% unemployment at this point. They can't. They have to get everyone to look at the stock market. All eyes on the stock market. And the stock market closed down today. It's down like 73 points. And they tried everything they could to pump it back up. The high frequency traders, the plunge protection team, they did everything, and they ended on a Friday in the red. But again, the Fed is the market, and I believe that they're trying to make the economy look as best as possible and to show, President Obama's going around with all his speeches telling us the real estate market's doing, it's recovering, unemployment is down, and euro, they have that propaganda going that the euro crisis has ended, just like they told us that's right, the Greece problem was solved. Remember that from like last year during the summer when they said, we did a bailout, this is the only one they'll need, everything's fine there now, they're going to chug along and everything will get better. Well, how many bailouts has Greece had since then? Quite a few. And don't worry, their unemployment is not going to go any higher. Guess what? It's skyrocketed. And we're seeing this all over the place, but they're continually letting everyone know that everything is getting better. And they need to do this because when the time comes in the fall, when they announce they're going to taper, they can't be blamed for this. So what they have to do, they have to shift the blame someplace else. And that other place will be another country, because they will make it seem like they're going to taper, and then all of a sudden an event will happen and something will happen, just like we see out in the Middle East. NSA was brought up. We had, the IRS scandal, the Benghazi scandal, the NSA for spying on Americans, and all of a sudden we got this great information of chatter of, the Al-Qaeda talking on 2 tin cans with string, and they picked up that conversation that they're going to have attacks on certain places, and they had to evacuate everyone. And it's amazing how these events just so happen to happen at the perfect right time when they need them. And we're going to see this again in the fall time period when everything was just perfect. The economy in America and Europe was just about to turn around, and look what happened. This country, bombed us or did a cyber attack on our financial institution and brought the stock market down. Look what happened. Now the whole thing is falling apart because of this other country. You can't get to your money because we have to freeze it because the banks would collapse otherwise, and we need to go to war. The Fed and the government, don't worry, we're going to handle this. We're putting legislation, executive orders, whatever else we need to really get this economy back, and we'll do it. The only thing we'll have to do right now, everybody, is we're going to have to take your money from the banks, and those are called bail-ins. For those people who haven't heard of it yet, where we freeze your account, you're only allowed to take out $200 a day. The rest of your money's frozen. And what we're going to do is the Fed agreed, after a lot of argument, that they're going to print a lot more money. Instead of $85 billion, they're going to do $170 billion. So we're going to do $85 billion for the toxic assets, speed that up to help out the economy, and then another $85 billion we're going to give to the banks. We got to prop them up, and we're going to make the stock market go even higher. And don't worry, they didn't want to do it, but we have to do this, and or the entire economy will collapse. And by the way, we're going to get back at that country that did this to us, so we're going to go to war. Everyone with me? Yes, let's do it. And that is pretty much how things might play out during that period. Okay, let's move on here. Now, like I said, in the Middle East right now, we have a lot of Middle Eastern countries wanting the U.S. out, Egypt being one of them. And we're seeing this in Yemen, Bahrain, Egypt, Tunisia, and it's spreading all over. And this is why we're having this terrorist threat. Now, in Pakistan, the U.S. Evacuates another embassy, and they're getting the citizens evacuated, the U.S. citizens out of Pakistan. And this goes on to say that the U.S. Department has mandated the evacuation of most diplomats from the American consulate in Lahore, Pakistan, in response to a terrorist threat on the office, which is located in the heart of Punjab province. And State Department officials said they have issued an ordered departure for all diplomats in Lahore. And they picked up some more chatter on the phone systems that they're using, because when they talk about terrorist threats, they just do it in the wide open, so the NSA or what other agency can just listen in, so they know exactly what's going on, because that makes sense. Now, Russia is delaying the delivery of the S-300 missiles until mid-2014, and this kind of opens up a window for Israel and the United States. We have to remember that during this period, that since they do not have these missiles and the fiscal year ends September 30th for funding the paid mercenaries in Syria, and the Fed saying they're going to taper, and more cyber attacks are appearing all over the place. And we have the terrorist threat going on right now until the end of August, and a travel advisory going on until the end of August. And we're seeing a lot of protests in the Middle East, and the United States is continually waging war to maintain and keep intact the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, and to protect the Western central banks in these countries. In the meantime, we see China making deals all over the place to become the next reserve currency of the world. They are purchasing gold hand over fist, and they are stocking up on that, and they're making trade deals all over the place. And this is playing out where the United States, through Saudi Arabia, which is controlled by the U.S., and then, deals all their oil in U.S. dollars as the reserve currency. They have a Western central bank. Their friend, the U.S. government is buddy-buddy with Saudi Arabia, and they tried to bribe Russia with arms deal, oil, gas, and whatnot, giving them some cash to lay off and step away from Syria, so the U.S.-Israel forces can go into there. Well, Russia didn't take the deal. They have a long relationship with Syria. They have a lot of contracts with Syria, and that plan didn't work. And we have to remember all the things that didn't work. The humanitarian cause that tried to get the American people to, go to their hearts, and we need to go help these people, but that didn't work, because most of the American people, about 70%, do not want to have anything to do with Syria at this point. So that didn't work. So what they did is they moved on to the chemical weapons of mass destruction. They tried that a couple times. That didn't work. So now they tried to bribe Russia, and they wanted them to move off so they can go in. That didn't work. So then we had the CIA deputy director say, their biggest threat is having al-Qaeda take over the government before the U.S. can get in there. If somehow Assad is relieved of his duties, or assassinated, or removed somehow, and all of a sudden we had missiles flying into his motorcade trying to assassinate him. Well, that didn't work either. They might try that again. Again, if he is assassinated, the U.S. will use the al-Qaeda terrorist ploy to go into Syria and to attack, and this is why this terrorist threat is going on at this time. I mean, there's many other things, to prove why these intelligence agencies, um, why we need them. Look how we picked up this communication. We have to spy on everyone. Let's make Americans scared. And it's also for this tactical strike that they want to do and clean up and control the entire Middle East. So what we have now is John Kerry meeting with Russia to talk about Syria and the conflicts. And really what they're meeting for is John Kerry trying to make some deals with Russia to lay off, to let us go in there, to let the U.S. government go in there. And this is not going to work. Nothing's going to come out of this. The only piece that the central bankers and U.S. government will acknowledge is if Syria says, okay, we will use the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency, we'll let you come in here and put up a Western central bank, you can control us, and here you go, here we'll convince Iran to do the same. That is the only piece that the central bankers and U.S. government and Israel will go for. That is it. Otherwise, you will never ever see peace. Okay. Now, the U.S. military and other government agencies were caught manipulating social media, running mass propaganda accounts. And this report goes on to say it has been common knowledge to anyone paying attention within the alternative news community for years, but once again the media is now admitting that the U.S. military and intelligence agencies are indeed running massive propaganda campaigns that cover a vast array of online networks, social networks, and alternative media sites. And what they do, the military and intelligence community, they hire people to create accounts, and these accounts usually have no background in anything else. They're just created, and they go on to YouTube, Facebook, alternative media sites, and they continually, one after another, they continually bash whatever news that is the opposite of what the government is giving. And this goes directly into their, nudge nudge program to convince people, no, you don't want to listen over here. You want to go back to the mainstream media. Look at CNN. They have the real story. Look at Reuters. They have the real story. Don't listen to these people. And this is what they're doing. And, sites like, I think I said YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and you'll see them over and over and over, non-stop. That's all they do is continually bash and bash and bash and bash. And yes, you will have people that throw up, comments or ask questions negative, but yes, one will be asked, then they'll be, okay, I understand what you're saying, but you will not see continuous over and over. And this goes on to say that these people are called trolls, and it's a cyber psyop by the government that simply can't answer real questions, instead of actually doing anything about the outrage and the information. They set these accounts up to have other people do this and discredit and try to make people not listen to this. But again, the First Amendment of the United States, the Constitution, allows people to speak out against their government. It's called freedom of speech. We're allowed to question and ask things about what is going on. And of course, the police state, and it's becoming more of a police state when they have to hire these people to do this type of bashing, because this is what happens in every dictatorship. They have to silence those that speak out. Now, if we take this a step further, there was a report that Lavabit, the encrypted email service, was shut down, and this goes on to say, Leveson said restrictions imposed by the government prohibited him from explaining what led to the shutdown. And it looks like another encrypted email service, Silent Circle, announced Thursday night that it would also end its own encrypted email services. They went on to say, "We see the writing on the wall. We have decided that it is best for us to shut down." And what's happening is these encrypted email services, the NSA cannot break into. If they do not have the encrypted key or the method of encryption, it's impossible to break into it. And these companies do not want to hand that over because that will be giving up everyone's privacy. And the government at this point, because it's hush hush, must be pushing the owners of these encrypted email services, and they're making them do something they really don't want to do, but who knows what they are, telling them or threatening them with? We don't know, but they are closing down. Most of the encryption the NSA already has. Here they don't, and they cannot access the email again, which is our privacy. They're not allowed to search us because of the Fourth Amendment. So these encryption email services are allowed. And again, if we use this and we go back to the Middle East terrorist threat, why wouldn't these terrorists or military factions use encrypted methods which they created, which can be done very easily, with the method and key not known to the intelligence community? That's how they would have their communication. They just would not get on their cell phone or a payphone or use their tin can with string to communicate what they're going to do. It would be completely encrypted, or they wouldn't even use electronic devices. They would do everything the old-fashioned way. Think about that for a second, and what the government is trying to say they intercepted at this perfect time. Okay, now let's get over to the anti-gun groups here. Michael Bloomberg has his, mayors against guns, and he tried to get Brian Mayer, who is the mayor of Walden, and that's a town in New York, and he had Mayer explains how he became involved with the organization. I was asked to sign a petition affirming my support for safer communities. I signed it because who would not be for safer communities? Hey, that makes sense. I agree with that. What I found out later is that my name was being used in an anti-gun propaganda to further the personal agenda of Mayor Bloomberg. And Brian Maher is a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and he wanted his name off of this, and he finally received a call from a representative of the organization, and he attempted to buy me off by promising political donations in return for my continued membership. It was not until I declined this payoff that my name was finally removed. So we can see how far they will go to get certain legislation passed, to get people on board onto this removal of the Second Amendment. And if you think this is all they'll do, they will do a lot more, because we have to remember the gun bill, the UN Arms Treaty are both pending in the Senate. They are sitting there for a reason. Nothing sits there just to sit there. So there will be some type of an event to help push these bills through. What it will be, it could be a shooting, it could be a bomber with black powder, it could be anything, anything they can think of, but it will have to be horrific, bloody, to wake up the American people, to get the gun control supporters back on the bandwagon to push this legislation through. And then you have to think back, during the Boston bombing, the gun bill was being voted on during the Boston bombing. And it just so happened that the Boston bombing, the bomb was made out of black gunpowder. And if you start to put all the pieces together, because now they're calling out and saying that the Boston bomber, was a white radicalist that believed in gun laws, which believed in the right to have a gun, and they're painting him out to be this white extremist gun-loving person that supports guns. And how interesting that they're doing this at this time, because they're building the next wave of how they got to get these gun bills passed. Now, talking about guns, Chris Christie signed 10 gun bills into law. And I just have to do this. The Second Amendment it reads like this: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Now, we know what the word keep means. Bear means to carry. Arms means weapons, ammunition, and armament. So carry weapons, carry ammunition, carry armaments. Shall not, you can't get any clearer than that, be infringed. Shall not be, and the definition of infringe is limit, shall not be limited. Well, all these laws are limiting it. Shall not be encroached upon. Well, all these laws are encroaching on it. It is very simple. Our founding fathers made it very simple and easy to understand. So, what did Governor Chris Christie do? He said anyone that is on the federal terrorist watch list can no longer get an ID card or permit to purchase handguns. Now, the federal terrorist watch list is a secret list. Nobody knows who's on this. And guess what? You can't get off of it. So, if you don't know if you're on it and you can't get off of it, they can put everybody on the list. And that makes it null and void for anyone to get a gun. I'm sorry, but if I go back to my definition of the Second Amendment, that is a limit. And it shall not be infringed on. That shall not be limiting. That is a limit, because you can't get yourself off, and you don't know how you got on there. You don't even know if you're on there until you go to apply for an ID or a permit. This is how far they will go to remove the guns from the people. And I wouldn't be surprised of how much further this goes. I'm surprised that Mayor Bloomberg hasn't used this yet, or other states hasn't used this approach yet. And believe me, they're going to. Now, because of the leak that from Edward Snowden about NSA, that we all know about spying, and they are going to remove 90% of their system administrators. There's roughly around 1,000 system administrators like Edward Snowden, and they're going to make all their tasks automated, so this way the NSA can be completely in secrecy. There'll be no more whistleblowers, and computers don't talk. And that's how they're going to get around this. And this way they never have to ask questions. They don't know anything, and the spying can continue, which it will. Now, talking about the NSA, Obama announces new NSA surveillance rules. Now, he's going to be very transparent and create a website that will help this situation. No, he's not. Yeah, he'll create his website. But we have to go back to all the government officials. They tell us a lot of stuff. You see their mouth moving, a lot of words are coming out. But the real way you can tell who's doing what is by their actions. Look at the government officials' actions. Look at Obama's actions. Look at the NSA director's actions. Look at Clinton's actions. Look at their actions to show you what's really going on, not what's coming out of their mouth, because they will tell you anything and anything to keep you quiet. And most of the time, it's everything you want to hear. And everyone goes, oh, that's great. He's going to do that for us. Fantastic. And then it's actually the opposite. Just like all this information, how Pelosi and Obama was telling us how great Obamacare was, but you can't read it until it's passed. But it's going to be so great. It's going to be so inexpensive. Everyone's going to be able to afford it, except for the people working in Congress, the staffers, because oh wait, it was too expensive for them because it was $5,000 for an individual and $11,000 for a family. So yeah, let's look at their actions of what they're doing instead of what they're saying. And President Obama, during his press conferences says, no, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. Um, President Obama said, I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. Really? Yeah, it's so much easier to say this after the fact, isn't it? It's great when all these government officials come out and they tell you what they were already doing because it was already leaked. My preference, and I think the American people's preference, would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws, a thoughtful, fact-based debate that would then lead us to a better place. No, Mr. Obama, you were never coming out with the NSA spying on every American at all until this leaked out. Now you're covering your ass and protecting everyone that is involved in this. That's what this is. And I'm sorry, but Mr. Snowden is a patriot. If what he's saying here is that, that he was going to review the surveillance, so he really knew what was going on, because why would he have to review it? I mean, he must have known something about it. So is he admitting that he knew that that NSA was spying on everybody? So if he did know this, then he knew that they were in violation of the Fourth Amendment. And if he knew that they were in violation of the Fourth Amendment, all those people that took the oath to support and protect the Constitution and support and protect the people's rights, they didn't do. So who are the traitors? Okay, let's move on here. Now, Citizens Bank is alerting its customers that is experiencing intermittent interruptions. They're being cyber attacked by a DDoS, and some customers are reporting some things that are going wrong, that they can't access their accounts. But right now, no data has been stolen or anything like that. Now, NATO has, and I put the link on here on the x22report.com site on this episode. It says cyber attack timeline. The NATO website has put a beautiful cyber attack timeline, so you can see the lead up to the main cyber attack that's going to happen. They listed all the cyber attacks from all those nations like China, North Korea, Syria, Iran, Russia, all the nations that are doing the cyber attacks. How interesting it's all those nations, that aren't part of the Western central banking system. But anyhow, they put it together and they showed all the things leading up until today, and eventually they'll be able to put the doomsday cyber attack on their timeline, and that whole timeline can be complete then. But you can go take a look. I have a link here on the page. Now, the Eiffel Tower was evacuated today for a bomb alert, and we're going to see a lot more of these leading up to the main false flag event, because they want to make sure that people are still aware and that the terror is real, that it can hit home. So we're going to see a lot of this happen all over the place. And in Austin, Texas, there was a terror alert which coincides with a Homeland Security drill. It's funny because if you go to the Homeland Security site, their terrorist alert system is always blank. Even for this, even for the one in the Middle East, even for the one everywhere, it never, even during the Boston bombing, it never shows anything. But they're saying, on August 8th or 9th, which is today and it was yesterday, that there something could happen with a planned backpack-style bombs on the 6th Street, and this was combined with a drill, so you don't know which is which. And I don't think anything's going to happen with this, but you never know. And there was another report out there saying that Al Qaeda is now growing. It is getting stronger, and the Obama administration to recognize that Al Qaeda has grown and has much further reach than previously acknowledged. This is a Middle East expert, Walid Fares, and we're looking that Al Qaeda is not on the run. They are growing. They have a lot more people indoctrinated into their cause, and it's a bigger threat than the United States government and these experts have previously thought. How interesting now that it's much, much bigger and spread over many more countries, and we need to go in and strike all these countries. And this is coming out during the time of this terrorist threat. Now, I do believe that we will see a buildup to strikes that will happen. We'll probably even see a false flag event by the end of August, to show that why the NSA is relevant, to keep the American people scared and to maintain control in the Middle East, and maybe even possibly, if they can pull it off, invade Syria at the same time and get the war started, because they've tried everything else. And yesterday's episode I said Plan Y, and nothing has been working, and it looks like they're down to creating a false flag to have the American people in Congress say, yes, we need to go in and get Assad because of what he's done to our financial or to the American people with a bomb or something. We don't know what the event will be, but something will occur, and we will have to watch and see how this unfolds. Listen, everyone, I will be doing a news brief on Saturday, so I will let you know when that is up, like I always do through the email system. And if you want to get alerts when I put the episodes up, you can sign up on the x22report.com site. I have a place where you can just put your name and your email address, and I only send you the emails for the alerts. I have no other emails that I send you. I don't sell you anything or anything like that. That's all it's for. And for those people on YouTube, if you don't want to wait for me to upload and compile the YouTube video, you can always come to the x22report.com site, and it is an MP3 audio version, and you can download it and play it way before it's on YouTube. Listen, everyone, be safe, be well, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.